Alright, so the Eagles have somehow managed to pull off the impossible once again, as they just got some news today involving two of their young rising stars that shows that they were able to come out as winners of an otherwise really tough situation. Meanwhile, Nick Sirianni and the Eagles revealed their decision to not play the starters in Week 18, meaning that Saquon Barkley unfortunately won't break the all-time single-season rushing record. However, despite some backlash from the fans, why doesn't Saquon seem to be too bothered by it? And also, why is the decision to rest the guys clearly the right choice? Plus, we also just got an update regarding Jalen Hurts' concussion, as the playoffs are right around the corner. So we're going to talk about that and all the other latest Eagles news starting right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Philly Fan 21 channel. If you're new, I'm Evan and I cover all things Philadelphia Eagles. And we are just a few days away from the Birds' regular season finale against the New York Giants. And ahead of the matchup, we've got a ton of news to get into, starting with a really positive update on one of the Birds' key offensive weapons. As after he missed the past 4 games with a knee injury and had to be placed on IR, the Eagles officially opened the practice window for tight end Dallas Goedert on Wednesday, meaning that he is very close to making his return. And as I talked about in my video yesterday, getting Goedert back is huge for multiple reasons, as not only will he give a nice boost to the passing game, as he's obviously one of the better receiving tight ends in the NFL, but he's also a really good blocker at the tight end position, and he makes the Eagles' run game a lot better as well. And you can see that by looking at these numbers, as they show that the Birds' rushing attack and Saquon Barkley have been statistically much better with Goedert on the field. So again, getting him back is going to be huge for the overall run game. And again, overall, Goedert's just a really good player, and adding him back into the mix of this Eagles offense is only going to make them harder to stop as we get set to enter the playoffs. So it's definitely exciting that he's nearing a return, and head coach Nick Sirianni seems to be pretty excited about it as well.
How quickly do you think that's going to be possible?
Yeah, we'll see. It's hard to tell. You can't ever really tell, and get him back on the field and doing things. Start his window, and it'll be super important to have him back. He's a great football player that has helped this team win a lot of football games. So really excited for the possibility to get him back, and like I said, we'll see when that happens. But it's just good to get him back on the field and getting him practicing again, seeing him out there, because he is a presence for our offense.
Again, it's definitely going to be great to get Goedert back out there as we get set to enter the playoffs. But then the question is, well, is he going to return this week in the regular season finale or next week in the playoffs? So it seems like we'll just have to wait and see on that. But in regards to the other starters, we finally do have our answer as to whether they'll play in this regular season finale or not, and specifically whether Saquon Barkley is going to get the opportunity to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. And it's probably not what a lot of Eagles fans were hoping for.
Yeah, we're gonna rest some guys. No, we're locked into that number 2 seed, so we're gonna rest some guys. There's gonna be some guys that are resting. There are gonna be some guys that are in reserve roles. You can't obviously rest everybody with the schedule. With the roster. And so yeah, that's our plan moving in here forward.
Is Saquon going to be one of them?
Yeah, he'll probably be somebody that rests.
So there you go. The Eagles will in fact not play the starters this week against the Giants, meaning that unfortunately, as bad as we may want to see it, we are not going to get to watch Saquon break the rushing record. And I mean, regardless of whether you think the starters are not playing is the right decision, there is no denying that this is still tough. I mean, Saquon has had an absolutely phenomenal and historic season, and chances to set a record as huge as this one do not come around very often. So for Barkley and also the Eagles offensive line to not even get the chance to break it this week has got to sting at least a little bit. And even though Saquon himself did say he wasn't disappointed when he was asked about the decision, you can just hear it in his voice that he probably still really did want to break that record.
Yeah, coach asked me, what I like to do. We had a conversation, and he called me back, let me know that we're probably going to be resting, and my reaction was kind of like I told my family. Obviously, my family, probably wanted a little bit more than me, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning football games, and we're in the playoffs, so I got a bigger goal in mind anyway.
As much as I'm sure that it is probably a little bit of a bummer for Saquon that he's not going to get the chance to break the record, you got to applaud the way that he's handled it, as it doesn't seem to be bothering him too much, and he's clearly very understanding of the decision, and he's also kept it in perspective that even though breaking that record would be cool, that's not the main goal.
It's no disappointment. I'm blessed to even be in position to even have an opportunity to do that. Like I said, it's not in God's plan. So, but what is in God's plans is the opportunity to get ready for the playoffs and give myself not only myself but all the stars a little break, so we can get in the playoffs healthy and go for a run. That's how I look at it. That's how I kind of tell my family is like, we didn't come here and I didn't sign here to break Eric Dickerson's record. We came here to win the Super Bowl. And I think everyone knows that. That's our goal and what we want to accomplish.
shout out to Barkley for just continuing to be super unselfish, and he's right at the end of the day. Like, winning Super Bowl is what actually matters here, which is why I think resting him and the starters is 100% the right call, because I mean, the last thing that we need is for Barkley or one of the Eagles' other key players to get injured in a meaningless Week 18 game, and now they're out for the first round of the playoffs or possibly longer than that. Like, it's just not worth the risk at the end of the day, and Lane Johnson seems to agree with that, as he made a great point as to why it's just better to rest Saquon and the rest of the guys at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reason why teams, strive for the #1 seed to get the bye week, because it is huge. You get guys injured that maybe don't have the ability to play. You get an extra week, and now they have the ability to play. So, and even last year, AJ got hurt before we went to Tampa. So that's what you're looking at, as far as the Saquon situation. So that's the way I see it. So.
Yeah, so again, I would definitely agree that that whole AJ situation last year is a perfect reason to not risk it and just to get to the playoffs healthy. Plus, it definitely doesn't hurt to get guys rested up ahead of the most important games of the season. As with the Birds' bye week being all the way back in Week 5, I'm sure they're exhausted and their bodies are pretty beaten down by now. So again, giving these guys a week to rest ahead of the playoffs will probably wind up being pretty helpful. Plus, it'll also be cool to see some of the backups get the chance to play heavy snaps this week, as it's going to be a great opportunity to develop some of these guys by getting them some legit in-game experience. So as much as this may seem like a meaningless game, for the guys who are going to play in it, it's far from it. And backup quarterback Tanner McKee emphasized that ahead of the matchup with the Giants.
Like, are you an example of why it's a meaningful game this weekend?
Absolutely. I mean, this is my chance to, play a significant amount of snaps, reps, and to, go out and show what I've been working for all this whole year. Obviously I've been putting in a ton of work by myself, on the practice field and different things like that. So I feel like I can showcase that. I'm super excited for the opportunity.
I'm definitely looking forward to seeing McKee get more reps after what he was able to do when he stepped in last week. And there's also a few other guys that I'm looking forward to watching too, including Will Shipley, Sidney Brown, Keely Ringo, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr., just to name a few. So again, this week is really just going to provide some valuable experience for a lot of these guys, and it's still going to be interesting to watch this game to see how they do. But what else is interesting is the update that we just got on Jalen Hurts' concussion. And don't worry, we're going to get into that and more in just a minute, but real quick, I do want to say, if you are enjoying this video and you don't want to miss any other Eagles coverage or content just like this coming throughout the rest of this entire season, then make sure you subscribe, and also really, really importantly, turn on notifications so you're notified instantly when one of these videos is uploaded. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss any of the Eagles coverage or content I got coming on this channel. I cover the Birds pretty much daily here, so if you want to stay up to date on all the latest Eagles news, this is the spot. So again, subscribe and turn on notifications, and also drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 600 likes on today's video. And now, with all that being said, let's get back into the video. So it's now been 11 days since Jalen Hurts suffered a concussion against the Commanders, and he obviously missed the Birds' last game against Dallas while dealing with it, so I think a lot of us were hoping to get a positive update this week on Hurts' status as we get closer to the playoffs, even if he's not going to play this Sunday. But unfortunately, on Wednesday, Nick Sirianni gave us an update regarding Hurts' status that wasn't exactly ideal.
Yeah, he's still in there, and so we'll see as the week progresses through.
In addition to this, even though the Eagles just had a walkthrough on Wednesday, Hurts was still listed as out on the injury report with the concussion, so that's probably not the update that we all wanted to hear. That being said, there is still time this week for Hurts to return to practice and start to ramp up as we get closer to the playoffs, and even if he doesn't return this week, there is no doubt in my mind that he's going to be back into the swing of things next week as the Eagles prepare for their first playoff game. So as much as it's not ideal that Hurts isn't out of protocol yet, I'm not going to worry too much about it, and I'm just going to hope that he can get back out there as soon as possible. And in regards to the Eagles' first playoff game, as I talked about in my video a couple days ago, the Birds' most likely opponent there is the Green Bay Packers, and they just got some massive news that's also pretty unfortunate, as after a few months of trying to play through injury, star corner Jair Alexander underwent arthroscopic knee surgery on Tuesday, meaning that he's likely out for the rest of the season, and really his only chance of returning is if the Packers make it to the Super Bowl. So while this news is obviously really unfortunate and you never want to see any player on any team get injured, if the Eagles do get the Packers in the first round of the playoffs, then them not having Alexander definitely makes things a little bit easier. But moving on, we also did get some pretty cool news today as the NFL released their Pro Bowl rosters for this season, and 6 Eagles made the cut, those guys being Saquon Barkley, Jalen Carter, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, and Zack Baun. And while obviously we hope that none of these guys actually get to play in the Pro Bowl, it's still pretty cool and certainly an honor that they were selected. And it also marks a pretty big accomplishment for the Eagles as they finally have a Pro Bowl linebacker after consistently having lackluster talent at that position. So that's definitely awesome, and again, it's just amazing what we've seen from Zack Baun this this year, as he has had a historic season in his first year in Philly, and I honestly think that if he was a bigger name, he would be in legitimate contention for the Defensive Player of the Year award. So shout out to him for that, and also for making his first Pro Bowl. But then to add on to that, these Pro Bowl selections also show off the absolute genius of Howie Roseman and the Eagles, because they managed to pull off the impossible by replacing two franchise icons with a couple of young rising stars. And of course, I'm referring to how the Eagles went from Jason Kelce at the center position and Fletcher at defensive tackle to now Pro Bowlers Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter. I mean, think about just how insane this is. Like, Kelce and Cox are obviously legends, and they played at a very high level for a super long time, so obviously when they retired this past offseason, there were concerns about how the Eagles were going to replace them and whether there would be a drop-off in production at those positions, but the Eagles managed to draft a couple guys a bit in advance. When those guys did retire, Jurgens and Carter were ready to step in and immediately play at a very high level. So much so to the point where they both wound up being Pro Bowlers in their first year playing these bigger roles. So again, it's just insane when you think about it, and shout out to Cam Jurgens and Jalen Carter for making their first Pro Bowl, and also shout out to Howie Roseman for doing the impossible once again. Now obviously, that said, there were also some Pro Bowl snubs for the Eagles, mainly Jordan Mailata, who is the NFL's highest graded player, yet somehow isn't a Pro Bowler, although to be fair, the tackles in the NFC that did make it are all pretty unbelievable players, so it's hard to kick somebody out, but it's really just hard for me to believe that Jordan Mailata didn't deserve to make the Pro Bowl, and then also guys like Quinyon Mitchell and A.J. Brown had a case as well, but at the end of the day, it's just the Pro Bowl, so it doesn't really matter that much, and hopefully none of the Birds are playing in that game anyway, and instead they're fighting for a chance to be world champions. And you guys already know that I'm going to be continuing to cover all the Eagles news as they attempt to go on that journey, so again, if you don't want to miss any of that, then make sure you subscribe, and also really importantly, turn on notifications, and also while you're at it, make sure you drop a like as well to show some support, because it really does help me out a ton. Again, let's see if we can get to 600 likes today, and also leave a comment down below just regarding anything that I talked about in this video, and if you want to watch another Eagles video going over some stuff from earlier in the week, you can check this out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys, so thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.